Welcome back. Today we join a craftsman as he brings a forgotten wooden shell back to life. The transformation begins at the highest point, completely replacing the compromised roof structure. He cuts custom notches into the new timber rafters, ensuring a tight mechanical fit against the original frame. This flush connection transfers the roof's future weight evenly down the walls, preventing localized stress fractures in the aging wood. Construction adhesive acts as a secondary bonding agent between the rafters and the ridge beam, while metal brackets and nails provide immediate structural hold. The adhesive cures to eliminate micro-movements caused by wind shear. Every vertical support is set perfectly plumb using a spirit level, as even a degree of tilt translates into severe alignment issues for the roof decking later. The skeleton of the new roof is robust, built with heavy-duty timber capable of supporting substantial dead loads like winter snow. The miter saw allows for precise crosscuts, keeping the rafter tails uniform along the eaves. Oriented strand board, or OSB, provides massive shear strength when staggered across the rafters. These engineered panels bind the individual roof beams into a single, rigid diaphragm. Fastening the decking correctly requires driving screws into the dead center of the timber below to avoid splitting the wood grain. He uses a long level to verify that the outer edge trim maintains a perfectly straight fascia line. This trim piece will serve as the crucial mounting point for the eventual gutter system. Heavy-duty L-brackets anchor the overhanging rafters, locking the entire assembly against the structure. Once the decking is flush, the roof receives its first true layer of weather protection. This black synthetic membrane is highly vapor-permeable from the inside, but completely waterproof from the exterior. Rolling it horizontally across the frame ensures water naturally sheds downward, keeping the underlying timber dry. A matrix of horizontal wooden battens goes down over the membrane. This creates a critical ventilation gap underneath the terracotta tiles, preventing moisture buildup and wood rot. Metal drip edge trim seals the fascia, directing runoff away from the walls. Finally, the heavy terracotta tiles are laid and locked in place, with a flexible ridge cap sealing the very peak against driving rain. Down below, the original log walls require intense rehabilitation. Cutting vertical relief slots into the timber prevents natural expansion and contraction from warping the frame. By driving wooden wedges into these cuts, he stabilizes the logs and forces them into a fixed, load-bearing alignment. Heavy-duty ratchet straps pull the bowing beams back into true square before they are permanently secured. Mortar is then packed tightly into the deepest structural voids. This traditional chinking method stops drafts and solidifies the masonry base beneath the logs. Pink extruded polystyrene insulation is fitted against the cold masonry, offering high thermal resistance in a thin profile. The floor preparation involves digging deep footings into the earth, well below the future frost line. Placing a tied metal rebar cage into these holes introduces essential tensile strength to the concrete. Without the steel skeleton, the isolated concrete block piers would easily crack under the shifting weight of the structure above. These reinforced piers will support the heavy interior features to come. Work pushes deep into the evening to dry in the roof structure before bad weather hits. In the gable, a gray vapor barrier membrane is stapled across the studs, creating an airtight interior envelope that stops condensation. Trimming the old, weathered log ends with a chainsaw exposes fresh wood, allowing new exterior cladding to sit flush. He uses a green rotary laser level to cast a perfectly vertical reference line across the uneven log wall. This guides the installation of the structural posts, ensuring the new interior framing stands perfectly plumb, regardless of how much the old cabin has settled. Heavy internal beams are treated and staged before the winter fully sets in. A continuous supply line of sheet goods is vital for the upcoming interior phases. Black landscape fabric acts as a breathable dust barrier beneath the loose-fill attic floor insulation. Between the roof rafters, high-density mineral wool is packed tightly to eliminate cold bridges. This material is naturally fire-resistant and offers excellent acoustic dampening against heavy rain. Over the wool, he staples a continuous layer of reflective foil insulation. The foil serves a dual purpose. It acts as a primary vapor barrier and bounces radiant heat back into the living space. Sealing every seam with heavy-duty acrylic tape is a painstaking but mandatory step. A single tear or unsealed gap would allow warm, moist air to penetrate the roof cavity and cause hidden rot. With the shell sealed, the internal nervous system goes in. Electrical wiring is routed through rigid plastic conduits rather than being left exposed in the wall cavities. This protects the cables from accidental punctures and gnawing rodents. The partition walls are framed with OSB and packed with more mineral wool, effectively soundproofing the different zones of the small house. the dense timber walls require a powerful chainsaw to carve out new rough openings for natural light. Installing modern, multi-pane windows into a historic log structure demands precision. The heavy white PVC frames are shimmed into the openings perfectly square, ensuring the mechanisms won't bind, as the logs naturally swell and shrink with the seasons. Removing the protective tape reveals the clean, weather-tight seal. Layering drywall over a solid OSB substrate creates an incredibly durable, impact-resistant interior wall. Before finishing the ceiling, an elastomeric sealant is pumped into the deep crevices between the top logs. This blocks the microscopic air leaks that drain heating efficiency. Fastening the heavy ceiling drywall requires driving screws every few inches into the joists, establishing a smooth, flat canvas that permanently hides the complex layers of insulation and framing above. High-voltage wiring is secured high up in the ceiling. Joists completely isolated from future plumbing runs. Finishing the ceiling with natural wooden planks adds structural rigidity and brings a warm, acoustic softness back into the room, contrasting the harsh drywall. A perimeter trench exposes the raw concrete foundation to the elements. Applying a thick, bituminous liquid membrane seals the porous concrete against subterranean moisture. Once the coating cures, dense, white polystyrene boards are anchored directly to the foundation. This subgrade insulation prevents the cold earth from wicking heat out of the floor slab during the harsh winter months, drastically lowering the home's long-term energy costs. The plumbing infrastructure relies on heavy-duty PVC piping, assembled with specialized solvent cement. This blue adhesive chemically melts the plastic, welding the joints together into a permanent leak-proof system. Pouring fresh concrete around the vertical pipe penetrations locks them in place and seals out ground pests. On the walls, the pipes are wrapped in closed-cell foam insulation before being secured with brackets. This prevents condensation from forming on the cold water lines and destroying the drywall from the inside out. A flexible silicone bead around the window frame absorbs the micro vibrations from wind that would otherwise crack rigid plaster. Taping and mudding the drywall seams is a test of patience. The paper tape embeds into the wet joint compound, bridging the gap between panels to prevent hairline fractures as the building settles. A heavy fiberglass mesh is embedded into the exterior mortar base coat, giving the facade immense tensile strength to resist cracking. Green, rigid insulation panels are then anchored to the wooden framing, drilling horizontal wooden battens directly through the insulation into the studs. Creates a robust mounting grid for the final exterior cladding, while maintaining a continuous thermal break around the house. A breathable, water-resistant underlayment wraps the entire exterior frame. This house wrap acts as a final wind barrier, protecting the insulation while allowing trapped moisture vapor to escape. Inside, the mudding process moves into its final sanded coats, rendering the paneled walls perfectly seamless. Using a long-handled roller, he applies a high-hide primer and flat white ceiling paint. The flat finish diffuses light evenly across the room, masking any minor surface imperfections left by the drywall joints. A deeply notched trowel combs the floor adhesive into uniform ridges. These ridges collapse under the weight of the heavy porcelain tiles, ensuring total mortar coverage without trapped air pockets. Precision groutwork finalizes the durable, wood-look surface. High-strength wood glue and heavy metal clamps laminate the raw timber boards together, creating a solid slab far stronger than a single, uncut piece. A penetrating dark stain highlights the natural grain pattern while sealing the pores against dirt and moisture. The green laser level dictates the geometry of the custom staircase, guaranteeing that every tread maintains an identical rise and run. Even a minor variation in step height can create a severe tripping hazard. Heavy-duty construction adhesive under the treads prevents the wood from creaking under body weight. The balustrade is assembled piece by piece, driving fasteners deep into the load-bearing stringers to ensure the handrail remains absolutely rigid for decades. The heavy newel post acts as the primary anchor for the entire balustrade system, screwing it directly into the floor. Joists eliminates any lateral wobble. Precise layout marks dictate the spacing of the turned balusters, ensuring they meet strict safety codes for gap width. The dark, rich stain unifies the various wooden components into a single elegant architectural feature against the rustic log wall. Outside, the light-colored wooden cladding begins to encase the building. These planks are installed with a slight overlap to naturally shed rainwater. The heavy timber window frames are secured tight against the weather barrier, sealing the envelope. Inside, the aesthetic shifts dramatically. Dark, oversized marble-patterned tiles are back-buttered with adhesive and pressed onto the wall. Plastic spacers maintain perfectly uniform grout lines as the heavy tiles set. This striking, dark feature wall, complete with a textured brick veneer inset, introduces a modern, high-end contrast to the traditional timber cabin. Smoothing the mortar joints on the brick pillar compresses the cement, increasing its weather resistance and giving it a classic look. The underside of the staircase is enclosed with durable OSB paneling, creating hidden, functional storage space. The heating core of the home is a heavy steel wood-burning stove. Precise measurements ensure the black stovepipe seats perfectly into the chimney flue, guaranteeing an optimal updraft. When fired, the stove efficiently radiates immense heat throughout the open floor plan. A heavy marble pattern tile serves as a waterproof, highly durable vanity countertop. Using a specialized grab adhesive avoids the need for mechanical fasteners that would damage the stone surface. The dark wooden cabinet is bolted directly into the wall studs, suspending it off the floor to protect the wood from potential water damage and make cleaning easier. Beneath the vessel sink, the plumbing lines are tightly wrenched to prevent slow leaks. Finally, a black metal frame is carefully seated onto the heavy, tempered glass of the shower enclosure. Integrating the laundry appliances beneath a continuous countertop maximizes utility in the compact bathroom. The dark gray tile work anchors the modern design. Heavy, dark-stained wooden shelving is anchored above the cabinetry, checked repeatedly for level. The marble-patterned laminate countertop is cut to size using a plunge saw on a guide rail. This setup guarantees a perfectly straight, splinter-free cut that a standard hand saw could never achieve. Custom panels are then fitted around the kitchen framework, seamlessly boxing in the appliances. A thick bead of silicone sealant around the sink cutout provides an absolute barrier against standing water that could swell and ruin the countertop core. The upper cabinet boxes are assembled on the bench, perfectly squared up before installation. Hanging upper cabinets requires driving structural screws directly into the load-bearing studs behind the drywall. Standard wall anchors simply cannot support the dead weight of solid wood loaded with heavy dishes. An iron-on wood veneer, edge banding, conceals the raw, engineered core of the cabinet panels. Trimming the excess veneer flush with a sharp utility knife leaves a seamless, solid wood appearance that resists chipping and peeling over time. A dense, dark stone windowsill offers a waterproof landing zone behind the kitchen sink. Aluminum profiles are cut to house the under-cabinet LED strips, acting as heat sinks to prolong the life of the lights. The heavy brass kitchen faucet is bolted down tight through the sink deck, locking its high-arch spout in place. High-quality, multi-axis hinges allow micro-adjustments, ensuring the heavy wooden cabinet doors hang perfectly parallel to the frames. Sleek black hardware is installed to match the faucet and appliances. The finished kitchen is anchored by a massive brick-faced island, blending industrial weight with warm, rustic craftsmanship. the centerpiece of the kitchen requires intense preparation. An orbital sander strips away the rough mill marks from the thick wooden slab, stepping through finer grits until the surface is glass smooth. A dark penetrating stain evens out the raw grain pattern, immediately followed by multiple coats of a tough, clear polyurethane finish. This clear coat seals the porous wood, turning the slab into a hygienic, stain-resistant surface capable of handling daily kitchen abuse. A generous bead of construction adhesive is laid down over the brick base to receive the heavy top. Flush-mounted electrical outlets are integrated directly into the side of the island base, bring modern convenience to the heavy masonry. The secured wooden countertop finalizes a rugged, highly functional workspace. Outside, the focus shifts to wrapping up the envelope. Decorative chevron panels are tapped into the porch posts, hiding the structural joints. Along the foundation base, a dimpled drainage membrane protects the subsurface insulation. Backfilling sand against the membrane allows groundwater to drain harmlessly away from the concrete slab. Heavy-gauge galvanized metal hangers tie the new porch floor joists directly into the main support beam. This grid provides a massive, bounce-free subfloor. The decking boards are custom, notched with a jigsaw to fit seamlessly around the vertical structural posts. To secure the deck without ruining the aesthetic, he uses a specialized hidden fastening tool. This jig drives the screws diagonally through the edges of the boards, completely concealing the metal fastener heads and preventing water from pooling in the screw holes and rotting the wood. The wooden railing sections are assembled and painted flat on the deck before installation, allowing for complete drip-free coverage of the tight cross braces. Heavy timber screws then lock the finished panels between the load-bearing posts, establishing a rigid safety barrier. A heavy timber step is installed to bridge the final gap between the porch deck and the landscape. Coating the step in a deep brown wood stain prevents ultraviolet degradation and water rot in the highest traffic area of the house. Custom wooden brackets receive the same treatment before being mounted to the eaves. Up on the eaves, custom metal flashing is installed to kick rainwater away from the wooden fascia. The traditional clay roof tiles are drilled and mechanically fastened to the roof battens to withstand severe updrafts during storms. The heavy tile roof completes the exterior envelope, capping off a structurally reborn, weatherproof home. What was a moss-covered shell is a working structure again. Revived and built for the long haul. Some things are worth the long road back.